Welcome back to the Still Knick Fans podcast. This is episode number 29. I'm your man Ron, and that's my brother John. What's happening, bro? How you doing?
Good. What's going on? I'm here. I'm alive.
Hey, man.
Doing well.
that's
Wait a
that's
minute.
the most
I
important thing,
think
man.
there's a post. I got a post. I'm good.
Oh, okay. Oh no, all right, good. Because if you don't check, sometimes it could be false. You could think, yeah, I'm here, but no, you're not really here.
You're right about that
So
one.
I'm glad you're here, bro. I know you've been doing a lot lately with work and real life stuff. So I'm glad we're able to sit here and talk about these Knicks, and hopefully the people out there appreciate the time we be putting in, because real life is it's real.
It sure is. There's very little time, I tell you.
Yeah. No, it definitely plays a part. So yeah, man, I'm happy to chop it up with you once again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Um, I want to just quickly say that I'm getting excited. I've been kind of counting down the days, and now we're finally getting closer. We're about 2 weeks away to the new next season. We're talking training camp and preseason, and then obviously regular season. But we're almost there. We're getting close.
Right.
We're getting close.
Right. We're right there.
So yeah, man, I'm starting to get a little excited. I'm not there yet. I think I'll get really excited when I see that they show video or pictures and stuff of the players, getting to the facility. Then that's when I know I'm start clapping up. Let's go, boys! But we're getting there. We're getting there.
You know what usually catches me is that first that first video of training camp, when they're out there and they're running up and down the court and they're running a quick scrimmage. Like, that's the one that gets me. I'm like, oh yeah, it's on. We're ready. Because they're getting ready, locked and loaded. That's the one. That's the one for me right there.
Yeah, yep. I was just taking a look at the chat. Someone out there loves this show, so that's good. That means we're doing something great. Thank you out there. Anyway, yeah, man. I just wanted to just mention that real quick, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the one, the only. He may go down as definitely one of the most talked about Knicks in recent history. There's players out there that give their all for their franchise, and they become cornerstones, and they bring a winning culture, and it's iconic in a way. And this is not that person, but he has still some planted a seed in everyone's head that's a Knick fan. Like, we'll always think about him being a Knick, and we do appreciate his time with us. It was 4 years. Some might say long years, but they were fun. They had their moments. So I just want to give a quick shout out to Frenchie. We're gonna miss you. Happy trails, brother, to you and your Dallas Mavericks.
Does this make the end of the Phil Jackson's tenure? Because that would have been his final pick, right? That ends
I think
anyone that had any association with Phil, right?
Right, because Mills, the next person is Knox, but that was a Mills pick.
That was Mills, yeah. Interesting.
Oh, wow. That's it, guys. That's it for the Phil Jackson era.
Yeah, man, because we also we had a moment in time where we brought back Hardaway as well, remember?
That's right.
We went away from Hardaway, Tim Hardaway Jr., and we brought him back. He was also a Phil guy, right?
Yeah,
Phil Jackson.
Yeah. I wonder if Phil's going to start following the Mavericks now. Will that become his new squad?
You already know he's tied to Jeannie Buss and those and that franchise forever. Since he's moved on from Chicago, he's always been close with that family. Wasn't he married to Jeannie Buss, or Am I
No, not
mistaken?
married. They were engaged at one point.
Engaged. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I don't know. It feels I feel weird about it because the ex Knicks that we did have, I like all of the ex Knicks, that
Hmm.
are on the Mavericks, except for that one guy, the tall guy, the unicorn guy,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that guy.
He
Yeah,
starts
yeah.
starts with a
I
P.
like all of them except for him. Yeah, yeah, that's him. You
Right,
you
right, right.
you know
That
where I'm
guy.
going.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh-huh.
him. Um, and even the guy that the player not to be mentioned anymore on the Knicks, he's not on that team. We still like Ntilikina. We still talk about Frank. It's that other guy we tend not to talk about. Yeah,
Right, right.
yeah. It starts with an E. Yeah, yeah, that guy.
Right,
Anyway,
right, right.
but yeah. So I think I'm gonna start probably following the Mavericks. I'm not gonna lie to you because I
Why?
like the team because I
Oh,
like them
because you
and
like the way they
I like Luca. I like Luca. Think he's a good player and something about him I like. I don't know. I didn't like when Porzy joined them, and
right.
they became a thing. So that's what kind of soured me on the whole situation. But the fact that there's so many Knicks over there and Franks over there, I want him to do good. Of
Right,
course, when the Knicks
right,
play them, I want them to beat their face in. But yeah,
right.
he can beat up everybody
But
else. That's fine.
they didn't help us any last year, so
No,
I
they
could I
didn't.
could
This
care
is true.
less. I could
Yeah,
care
no, I
less.
hear you. You've never been a big
Yeah,
fan of Luca, or over there. I know
he's
that.
all right. I think there's a lot of hype. I mean, he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I think he's got a lot of skills. I think he's very skillful. I think the American media like already, they marked him as the next up and coming franchise player. There's so much promotional stuff behind him. They even promoted him
Mhm.
as the MVP. You know what I mean? And he didn't even play a game last season. He was already considered the MVP. It's like, dude, you don't in front of LeBron, in front of Curry, in front of Lillard, in front of Durant, Kyrie. Like you had so many different options you could have went with. You know,
Uh,
Lamar Murray. Who? Wait, I'm bugging. How do AD? Like you got so many different options. Giannis, who won it last year. You know what I mean? Like you had so
yeah.
many other guys who you could have put in that ringer, and this kid hasn't proven anything other than a few big wins during the bubble. You know what I mean? Like, but he didn't win a championship. He wasn't even like the leading, like he didn't win what is that award, like top scorer, like any of those. Like he was probably like in the mix when it came to like, I don't know, double doubles maybe. Even Russell
Yeah.
Westbrook, you know what I mean? Like had better numbers.
Although his numbers were way more efficient than Westbrook, but you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah,
And it, but the other thing is, you remember, Luca's team is not that good. I mean, we thought the Mavericks weren't going to be that good. Like they finished a lot better than they started, and I thought it was going to be a long season for that bunch over there. But they're talented. They're just not championship ready yet. They would have to make a
yeah.
couple changes, and I think it kind of would probably be more on the defensive end. Plus, that mix that they
Right,
got with Luca and Porzi, whatever, it doesn't look. I don't think it looks too good.
right. Look, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know too much about him. All I know is that all that hype was early, and I was like, I'm not buying it. I'm not
Well,
buying it.
he's doing
So,
his thing. I'll tell you that. You look at those numbers. He's doing his thing, but not
right, but
everybody's
you got to
LeBron.
do it.
Like
You got to,
LeBron can bring a team like that to some crazy places.
but you look at what like Lillard did. You know what I mean? Like, Lamar Murray, what Mitchell did, Donovan Mitchell this past year, what Jokic did. Like, you got so many different guys that could have,
Hmm.
even Embiid for that matter, like what they are for their teams. Keeping the Sixers on top of the East that entire year. I would have given a lot of that praise to Embiid, right? Like, I don't know. I think they're looking for
That's
that next
true.
great white hope. To be honest, I think the NBA is like vying for that next great white hope. They're hoping to have
Yeah, you might
someone
be right.
else with less melanin in their you know skin tone and body to kind of represent the NBA in some other facet, like the Euro thing. I think they're like banking on the European kind of player being
Mhm.
you know a thing that transcends past the United States. But you know, you still see there's even when you talk about European players, you, people are more liking to like Giannis, you know, and players like that. You know what I mean? That kind of
Right.
are almost unicorn like, right? Where you don't really see it's like an anomaly to see a kid that size at that age doing what he does, and he's gotten better over the years when it comes to like hitting down jump shots, and he had big free throws, So I think the world likes to see that more so than being forced this one. You know, he's a stud. I don't get me wrong. He is a stud. He is a guy who you
Right.
build a franchise around. But I don't know. Not yet. Not. It's too soon. It's like Canelo when everybody was praising Canelo, and you still had Mayweather. It's like, come on, he hasn't beaten anyone yet. And then you put
That
him against Mayweather, and he was too young. You know what I mean?
you're right. That's a good point. I mean, now Canelo's the man. I mean,
Yeah.
and
I don't know if he would beat Mayweather even if Mayweather was still doing it at that level. You know what I mean? But
yeah, yeah. No, I hear you.
at
I get
23,
your point.
at 23, you ain't ready. You ain't built like that yet. So they have to let him mature into what kind of player he's really gonna be. You know,
Hmm.
and I mean he was a young star overseas, right? He played at 16, age of 16, 15, professional basketball. So he's
Right.
been doing it for a while.
And I think it's the other thing about him is that you he's not European. Like he's European, right? But you can't look at his game and say this guy's European. He's a good ball player. So he's kind of changed that whole persona
Has he
or
though?
perception that people. Well, he doesn't play like a European. Like European players, usually they have a certain level of finesse to their game, but it's not as aggressive as Luca. Luca's very aggressive in the way that he plays, and like he's the type that I don't know. Like I
He's a
haven't
big
seen
guard
that from a
though, man.
European. Yeah, well, I
But
mean,
he's a
but
big
even the way
guard.
he
What is he?
shoots, the way he
What is
takes
he?
shots, he's
Yeah,
he's just strong. Like I don't
he's
know,
a strong player.
I don't know. Yeah, it's because he's. I mean, he's a big guard. You're right, but I think it's also his. He has like that mentality of one of the better players. Like the better players will try to hit you with a dagger. Luca's the big dagger
Right.
type of player. Like when the game's starting
He
to build a
he,
lead, he'll take those threes.
he reminds me a lot of Drazen Petrovic. He really
Drazen,
does.
that's a good one. Drazen, yeah,
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 you
yeah.
know what I mean. I
Drazen,
mean,
Drazen was. Listen, he was one of my favorite players, man.
yeah, that's who he reminds me of when because he's a playmaker. He's a shooter. He's a scorer. Like he's not, you
Right.
know, he, that's what he's good at. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I would say that would be my comparison. I mean, from
Hmm.
the guys that I seen growing up playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, he's just,
I'm just
he
thinking
comes
about
to us as a
that.
point
Yeah.
guard versus a shooting guard. But he's a big kid. That's like Jason Kidd, but a shooter, not a facilitator. You know what I mean? Like
Right. Right.
I don't know how
Yeah.
big, Luca is. I don't know if he's 6'6" or 6'5". I have no idea, but he seems bigger than most guards. So
Yeah, that's a
at
good
least
point.
point guards.
Yeah, I think you make a that's a good comparison, and that's the interesting thing about him. Not to make this a podcast about Luca, but Doncic. But one thing I don't know how he would fare or how he would play and react is if he was on a team with other stars. Like
Hmm.
Luca's used to being the man.
Oh, I
And
see what you did there.
regardless if they brought, ha
I
ha,
see
you
what
see,
you
you know
did
what I'm
there.
saying? Yeah. Regardless of who they brought in over
He's
there,
just by himself.
you know, he's still by himself. It's a fact, yo. So I don't know how he would be, and that might be different for him. I don't know if he would coexist well with another guy commanding the stage. You know, I
Right,
think he's used to being
right.
the
Not
man,
not
but he wants more
not
help
just
around him.
yeah. He's used to playing with like baggage right now, like just space
Yeah,
fillers right now. People
right.
who are just filling in space in the roster. He's not really with anyone that we could identify as a
Yeah, exactly,
number two.
exactly. And I think I don't know anybody that is able to really help him out over there like that. So I feel for him. So
This-
but now that he got Frenchie, who knows? Like
you never
this
know.
might be,
Hey,
Frenchie might get busy out there, man.
I hear that.
I'm
First
I
unit
don't
or
know.
second unit? What are you thinking? First unit or second unit?
Nah, he's second unit, man. He's second unit. They ain't putting him in the first unit.
You ain't ready for
Let's
that,
not
huh?
get too crazy over here.
He ain't ready for the smoke. That's funny.
Nah, but you know what? Honestly, I do think that it's probably a good fit for him. Mark Cuban really liked him. He wanted to draft him from the beginning, um, and plus they have like a little bit of a European climate over there, so he
Hmm.
might really fit in well. We might see the best we've ever seen him. So we'll see. I wish the best for him. So, and like I said, I'll watch just to see what he does, but that's about it.
I'm
I'll be
surprised.
booing that other dude.
I'm surprised the Spurs didn't take a flyer on him.
Yeah, I
I
thought
was
the
thinking like the
Spurs might
Spurs
do
was
it.
going to be in that mix, but hey, more
But
power
I
to
think
the
the
man.
problem with the
They need the
Spurs,
defense.
yeah, but I think the Spurs they have too many guys at that position
They got
or
good
those
talent
positions
too.
that
Yeah,
he
they
could play, and they got good size like Dejounte
and talent.
Murray and those.
Yeah,
They're tall. They're
mhm,
good size guys. Yeah, and talent.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Um, and I guess they maybe they just didn't see where they could kind of take a chance. So whatever, it is what it is. Good for him though. But bringing us back to the team that we do have and the players that are on this team. Last week's podcast was kind of bigging up RJ Barrett and what he means to the Knicks and what we think his game can be going forward. But I noticed when I was doing my little Nick run of information out there that there was some stuff out there about RJ and his comps for the third year, and I thought it
Mm.
was kind of interesting. So I figured, why not talk about that a little bit and see if we agree. I'll give some credit to the Daily Knicks because they were the
Right.
ones that did something out there on Fansided. Um, they compared him to third year breakout players, and one of those players was Paul George. Um,
Poor George.
so
Okay.
yeah,
So Pacers,
apparently
poor George.
Pacers Paul George, right?
Right, right. Okay.
Um, and apparently they do have some very similar stats up until this point. So Paul George's second year going into his third, and RJ's second year going into the third.
Right.
Hmm.
And this is all
I think that's
offensively, right?
interesting. Actually,
All
it's
offense, not or defense as well.
no. This is the focal point being offense. Yeah, yeah, all
Offense,
offense.
okay. Right. I think that to me is like was always. I mean, I think Prophet talked to this right last time we were on that Paul George. What made Paul George stand out for most folks was the other side, right? Like he could bring it offensively, but it was that the intangible on the other side was what people fell in love with because he could do it on both sides of the court. It wasn't just one side. Um, I think injuries, of course, played a role in kind of his diminishing defensive skills, but um, you could tell he could still bring it from time to time. But offensively, there he's comparable to to Paul George. I mean, that's a good. That's pretty cool. That's
I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because
that's a plus for us. So, you know, because wasn't
and
he that same year that Granger went down, right? Paul's second year was the year that Granger went down, and so he was forced to lead the team.
yeah, Danny Granger. That's right, because that was Granger was everything was flowing through Granger until he got hurt
Yeah.
and Paul George stepped up and had to do it. You're right.
Well, Jamal Tinsley and Granger. Don't forget about
Well,
Jamal.
yeah, Jamal Tinsley too.
Jamal
Look
Tinsley
at
was a headache,
you!
right?
Look at you!
I remember. I
Yeah.
remember. Jamal
Okay.
Tinsley was the
Okay.
man.
Yeah,
He was a killer on
that's right.
that pick and roll. He was a killer
Yeah.
on the pick
No.
and roll. You know.
Yeah. Um. So that's pretty interesting. I thought that out of all people, for whatever reason, I didn't think about that. And then the fact that they say RJ got a little, a little taller too. If that's true or not, I don't know. But fine. Maybe a little bit more of a Paul George comparison. That works.
So
Um,
what would the stat what would the stats they put side by side? I'm interested because knowing back then that Granger was out and it was Jamal Tinsley and Paul running the game or running their team, doing primary the bulk of the scoring. When you look at RJ and Randall doing the bulk of the scoring on our team, you know what I mean? At least they were the focal point, right? Last year. Just trying to see what
mhm.
those comparable numbers were like. What was the percentages like free, field goal percentages?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Um, huh. Paul George apparently in year two averaged 12.1 points per game with just under 30 minutes played, right? And this is year two. RJ's numbers are already better than that in year two. Year
Right.
three, he averaged 17.6 points per game, and he played about 37, a little over 37 minutes,
Hmm. So maybe
which is
that's not the
interesting.
year that Danny. That may not be the year that
Yeah,
Danny
I'm
Granger
thinking.
went
I'm,
out
I'm
there.
thinking. It could be. It might not have been the second year. It might have been the third year.
The third year. Okay. Yeah, because I mean, he would have had a big spike at that point, right? Because he would have led that squad at some point with
Yeah, it
scoring. So
had to
you're
be because you know
probably right.
what? When they're talking about him here, they're talking about him being the focal point of offense. Um,
Hmm.
that included Roy Hibbert and David West.
David West
So
and Roy Hibbert.
yeah, I remember him. I always
So
hated David
that's
West, by the way, but
hmm. Well, that's interesting.
yeah. And I think it's very interesting that in year three, because wait, so this is RJ's third year, correct? He's going into the third year.
It's going into the
So
third year.
yeah, yeah. So like I said, RJ's second year is comparable to Paul George's third year.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's
So
good.
he's definitely on pace to project higher than him, at least going into this current year. Um,
Right.
so I like that comparison. The next comparison, which I mean, uh, it's probably not as good because this guy is actually kind of his career is kind of taking a little downturn lately, and that's Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
Because with Siakam, I feel like Siakam's kind of gotten worse. When Siakam came into the league, I mean, he was killing.
It's the shift though, right? Like he now becomes a primary player versus a secondary player behind, kind of
Right.
playing off Kawhi. You know what I mean? Now the focal point is on you, and of course, Van Fleet, and at the time it was what's his name? He went to Miami. Point guard. We were high on him.
Lowry.
Not Van
Lowry.
Lowry, Kyle Lowry, right? So, you know, and those guys are point guards, so they're more facilitators. And when you're asking Siakam to play kind of, off ball or even with the ball in his hands, you know, he's not as, as durable, not as, it's not strong enough sometimes, to get to the basket. He doesn't finish well at the basket and with in tight quarters with players around them, where you could play a lot freer when the focal point is like a Kawhi. Um, and they also have more shooters, right? Like, because I think at that point they had also Danny Green on that team. And after Kawhi left, they
Yeah.
kind of shifted away from that. So they didn't have as many shooters. It was a different team.
Yeah, and having those guys around definitely opened up things. Like if you got Siakam out there and you got Lowry and Kawhi Leonard
And
on
Fleet.
another side of the court, definitely, and Van Fleet, that definitely opens up opportunities for Siakam. So you start taking a couple of those guys away, however, especially Kawhi, because he commanded so much
Right.
attention. That puts more onus on Siakam. So that's another reason why he probably started to struggle too. I guess he basically was gifted into a very nice situation very early.
Yeah, and
So
this is
he's
what's
got
going to
to.
happen. Yeah, this is what's going to happen for RJ though, right? Now he's in a really good situation where he ain't being going to be asked to do so much. So this
Right,
opens the
but
doors for him to, you know, he probably won't get as many shots, right? But
yeah, but the good thing for him is that he's already learned the hard way. Like he started on the
hmm
team when they had no one, and they just
right,
basically was feeding the ball to whoever and trying to get points up. And now he's starting
right,
to get better talent around him little by little. You saw that little of that last year, and then this year it's going to be even more talent around him. So yeah, hopefully his transition it keeps going upwards the way you would hope it most players do. Yeah, that's a good
right.
point. Good point. Um, and then lastly, uh, well, we all know this one, Jimmy Butler.
Mm,
That's it's not just a Thibodeau thing, but it makes a lot of sense because
right.
you could see RJ being that type of player because no one, as I always say, when I looked at Jimmy Butler when he first came into the league, I would never have expected that Jimmy Butler to be this Jimmy Butler. Like
hmm
he didn't strike me as that type of fiery defender. And then he turned into a pretty good scorer in the league. I'm not going to say a pretty good shooter because he's not really a shooter. He's a good scorer.
Right. I mean, there's been a lot of comparisons to Jimmy, especially with Barrett.
Hmm.
That's been kind of a thing from the moment he came into the
Yeah.
league. So I I guess time will tell. Time will tell what kind of player Barrett ends up becoming, because you never know. He may build out more offensively and maybe even from the perimeter than Jimmy was able to. You know,
I
get me
think he
wrong. He
could.
can
Yeah.
hit big shots, right? But under this sort of tutelage, he could probably become more skillful from the perimeter you know than Jimmy was able to do. But as far
Hmm.
as strength wise, I think he can build to that. You already see it. You already see him, kind of have the strength that Jimmy has. He plays sort of that same kind of game, bully ball, um, and he's not afraid of competition, which is the reason why Jimmy Butler's, such a good player. This is why people look up to Jimmy and his game, because he isn't afraid of who's opposing him. You know what I mean? He's gonna bring it. He's gonna bring it to them. And that's important. Checking out the chat, right?
Yeah.
What we got going on
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. I'm looking at that. Yeah. Yeah. So it looks like, May 4th, shout out to you. Thanks for tuning in. He said RJ's too slow for shooting guard and too small for small forward. But if he grew, now Hawks have a problem. So that's the thing. Like he was probably a little undersized for the small forward position. Um, I
hmm
don't know if he's too slow for the shooting guard position, but because I think his defense has improved. and he's getting better. I will say this: sometimes he doesn't always make the right defensive reads, if you will.
Mhm.
I don't know the best way to
Yeah.
kind of express that.
That's
He just
exactly
sometimes
how to say it.
he's a little yeah yeah. Sometimes he just I think maybe he doesn't anticipate the way he should. But can he keep up with
Mhm.
everybody? Yeah, I think he can keep up with everybody. I just think that sometimes he doesn't anticipate properly, and therefore he winds up getting beat. But you know what? That's going to
Right.
happen. And if he gets more time on the Thibodeau system, and Thibodeau, continues to work with all the whole team, they're all going to start to learn how to play better defense individually and in team oriented situations. So he should be okay. I think he'll be good. But
Yeah.
I like the input on that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's been a knock on him, right? Can he really play strong enough defense playing the two guard versus the three? And so
Right.
that's why there's a toss up between him and Fournier because neither of them have actually been really good defensively, especially on one defense. But a coach Tibbs
Mm-hmm.
defense is always gonna, double and clog up the middle and really scheme against a high level scorer like a Bradley Beal, you know what I mean? Like or even a Steph Curry. We're gonna the scheme is going to be against that person or that one individual. So um I guess we'll see. We'll see how he plays. I agree with you. He doesn't keep his head on a swivel. He's bad with communicating when it comes to like backdoor. He's almost,
Mm-hmm.
that's really what his trouble lies. So hopefully he gets better at it. My hope is that the Knicks stay in range when it comes defensively. They don't drop past under, past top 10. I'm hoping that they could stay around 6 to 7, in their rankings on the defensive side. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, have the offense then elevate from where we were. We were almost like 24th or something like that. So if we can get that up to, top 10 in scoring, then we'll be right in it, at least for this season, we'll be right in the mix. And that's what
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to.
No, I agree with you. Like, I think one of the things that this team has to worry about doing uh, is being able to continue to hold the opponents under 100 points. Now, I mean, obviously that doesn't mean you're going to do it, but you have to have that goal. You still got to stay with
Right.
that, because the thing I worry about with this Nick team now that they have more offensive weapons is that they get a little complacent on the defensive end and they don't make it a goal to keep the team under a certain amount of points, because now they can score more points. And the other thing, when you start scoring more points, you get all hype, and you don't. The defensive end starts to lack a little bit because you're putting up the shots. So I want
Can
to
you
make
imagine,
sure that they continue to do that.
can you imagine a full season of that happening under Coach Tibbs? He'll lose his mind. Like when you think about, because that's what happened in those couple of games that we took an early lead. You remember we lost the lead and he
Mm.
came back to the starters and in the closing of what the fourth quarter or something, and yeah, I
Yeah,
don't see
yeah.
that lasting very long. They'll be doing a
No,
lot of
no.
sprinting during their off days because of it. You know what I mean? So
But it's definitely
I don't
something I
see.
think is going to happen. I just hope it doesn't happen that much,
Yeah, yeah,
because
it will
it's
from
the
time to
NBA.
time.
Stuff like that happens. Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Especially
yeah.
if you
We
go
we, we
up.
just need to. Yeah, we need to
If you go up
contain that as
early,
much as we can.
yeah. If you go up early and you're like, oh, you come out to a big lead and then you go with you sit your starters down. There's a possibility that can happen. Um, but the hope is that like you said, that doesn't continue. It doesn't become a thing. I don't see Coach Tibbs holding. You know, he'll be holding folks accountable. For
Yeah,
kind of
no,
that sort
definitely.
of play.
Yeah,
Um,
because that's not going to rock, and we've seen enough of that. Plus that creates bad habits. So, yeah, I don't expect to see too much of it, but I know it will happen. But what I do want them to do is I want them to, really show that the whole team is bought into his style of defense. but more importantly, I want them to move the ball. Last
Right.
year we had some issues with the Knicks and how they had some stagnant times with their offense, and also the fact that we felt like maybe we didn't have enough shooting to be able to score. This year we've got more shooting, so that part should be covered at least. Like
Yeah.
do they have the best shooting in the league? No, but they have enough. They've got adequate shooting, enough to be able to hang with any team. I think it's
Hmm.
all about them getting the right shots, and to get the right shots, you got to move the ball. So we got to have a free flowing offense. Julius has to continue to play similar to what he did last year, but he cannot turn into a Carmelo Anthony type. Like he does
Yeah.
command the ISO stage a little bit, but you can't
Yeah.
like. But he has his moments. He goes up and down, but he can't be
Yeah.
all ISO all of a sudden.
That's an interesting take because I see less of that in him. You know what I mean? Like Melo, you knew what you were getting. You knew a guy was going to be ball dominant, going to want the ISO, going to want it on the block. He wanted to work in the spots that he wanted to work in. I see Randall more now after a full season, seeing him in that role and with a role that he excelled in as a more willing passer than a Carmelo Anthony. Like Carmelo Anthony
Hmm.
was like, if I don't get my shot, then I'm passing it. You know what I mean? I think Randall was like more of a facilitator first, and he'll take his shot if those shots aren't presenting itself. I think he goes in the flow of the offense first. At least that's what he
Hmm.
showed us last year, um, especially with his pick and roll, pick and pop plays with Bullock, as you see. I could see that working really well with Fournier, uh, you know, as that guy. So I don't know. It's gonna be fun, man. I'm looking forward to what is it? We're only a couple of weeks away. So what is the first? Is that October 3rd? Is that the first preseason?
Uh, I
It's
think
something
that's
like
what we
that.
had. I gotta check that out. Um,
So that means they're
yeah,
they're
but
going right into their training camp, and you know they're probably running some scrimmages. You're going to probably see a lot of highlights. So I'm looking forward to
mhm.
that.
Yeah, the reason why I brought that up is that I'm a little worried about Randall becoming a little bit more ISO heavy because you got Fournier and Kimba here, guys that command respect and can score. So he might, because he'll get a little less opportunities. He might turn into a little of that because the ball is necessarily coming to him as much as it did before. I hope that you're
I
right that he
I,
continues
I
to,
actually
to, to
think
be the
it's going to
same way.
work. Yeah, I actually think Tibbs is going to work from him, right? So it's going to end up becoming his decision
Mm,
versus it being Fournier's or Kemba's decision. I think he's going to really work the ball through Randall as the first option and allow Randall to make the basketball decision on whether to pass or to score, um, and get his teammates involved. So, I mean, unless it starts to not work in the first month of play, it's not really working, and then Tibbs may have
right.
to go a different direction. But at least for the very first month, I think you're going to see a lot of what we seen last year in the very beginning. And it's bound to work. I mean, we got a lot more shooters, so something has to be in the air for it not to work out the way it should, right? Like the
No,
mist
you're
in
right.
the mist in Madison Square Garden must be something that we've never seen before, for guys to be missing, open shots. So I just don't see that happening. And again, I'm interested to see what the first unit and second unit are going to shape out to be. You know, I want to see what those battles end up becoming. And who do we see as the starting five? To start the season. I mean, we all know what we all projected. There's different projections out there. I think most of them are the same for the most part. And I think the outliers, like who's gonna run the five, right? Who's gonna own the center position as a starter, and who's coming off the bench. So it's an
Mhm.
interesting one to pay attention to. Also, who's going to be that sixth man off the bench? You know, how
Right.
consistent is they going to be with that sort of rotation? You know, or is it a mix and match type of six man where this person won't come in unless there's a need for that person to come in? You know, if there's foul trouble, whomever. Like, so I'm looking forward to all of those little nuances. You know, when we get our first win, who's going to be the one mic'd up and talking on behalf of their team? You know, I'm looking forward to that and kind of what that
Hmm.
conversation is like. You know, are they putting team first, or does it start becoming a polarizing, you know, situation where, oh, now I'm the man here, you know, look at me type of thing, you know, I'm helping my team do this, that, you know what I mean? Like it becomes an I
Right.
thing versus a we thing, you know what I mean? Because you hear that sometimes, you know. So I'm looking
You
forward
definitely
for
do.
that culture change. I'm looking to see if that culture change has landed and is staying, and and then see how we work through adversity, because there's going to come a point in the 82 game season where you're gonna go through a little bit of a slump. You know, how do we break off of that and, you know, get back to winning? Like, because we haven't, like, we went through the bubble, which was shortened season, right? The bubble wasn't a full season, right? I don't recall.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
it wasn't.
and then we had last season, which was, I mean, it was pretty much a full season. It was only 10 games less, but it was still different. You know, there was no fans in the stadium for most of it, for the majority of it actually, and so it was different. This is a whole, you know, you're gonna have fans in the stadium from the jump, unless we
Right.
revert back because of the variant. So you got packed stadiums, you know, teams ready to go. Uh, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great atmosphere. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think it's going to be really, really something special, man. I can't wait to see what they do, and I'm just excited to root for my team again, knowing that you know they're going to be better. Like it's just a nice feeling, and I don't think we've had that in a while. Like even me being a Met fan, you being a Yankee
Hmm.
fan, it's
Looking
something that
bad
can be
for us.
said about. Yeah, it's it's something that could be said about our teams that on paper they've always been kind of this, and then they keep adding players. So you're like, okay, well they should be really good. It's another thing to see a young team like the Knicks start
Right.
to slowly progress and get better, and then you add a few pieces in there to make it even better. I don't know. I just feel a lot more excited about them. We'll see what happens.
It's a lot to be excited about, man. I mean, you know, it's a nice nucleus of players, young and old, right? Like young and vets. I wouldn't say old, but like
Right.
in their prime. You know what I mean? And it's interesting to see like what is that going to become, you know? And do we make the playoffs that first year? What does that playoff run look like? You know, what seed do we end up in? You know, I really think there's a lot of projections having us be under six in you know what I mean? Like behind
Hmm.
the Sixers, Bulls, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn. You know what I mean? And some say behind Atlanta as well, right? So they have us somewhere around there, and it's like we're like 7 to 8, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah, I've been
but
seeing that.
I can see that shift. I can see if we come out to a really good start to a season, you know, and we win some games that people didn't expect us to win, I could see us gaining to that fourth, third spot, you know. But that just means we would have to play better than the Heat. We would have to be playing better than the 76ers, which is plausible if they don't have you know, they don't finalize that situation with Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? So,
Right,
um,
right.
and again, you don't know what sort of Brooklyn are you going to get. Are you going to get a healthy Brooklyn? Are they able to play an entire 82 season, a game season? Like you
Hmm.
don't know. That's an unknown. So like those are the variables, you know. And then you have teams like Boston who have shifted sort of a little bit on. They still got their two main players though, which is of course Brown and Tatum. You know what I mean? But
Tatum, yeah.
I think guys around them have shifted a bit. You kept Smart, but then there's some other players that moved around. So are they gonna stay the same? Did they get rid of their coach, or they still have their coach? Their coach became a GM, right? GM
Yeah,
coach
yeah, they
now.
don't have the same coach now. Yeah, now their coach is Nia Long's husband. I hate to
See,
say it that way, but that's who he. That's their coach. But
right?
he's a smart guy. He was under the. I think he's another guy who was under the San Antonio system at some point.
Okay. Well, listen. I
So
mean, at the end of the day, you you have to players have to learn how to play within a system. And if he's keeping the same system that was in place, then they should be right in the mix. If not, there may be some adjustments that need to be done before that you start to see him really gel. Um,
right,
so I
right.
mean, would it
Well,
surprise me if the Knicks are right there,
no, I
top
definitely
four?
could see it. I was gonna say it's now that I look at how good the East is, or at least how good the East projects to be compared to how it's been in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
It's too hard for me to worry about seeding, like where I see the Knicks. I can't do it
Right.
that way now. And the more and more I've thought about it, so in my mind, the Knicks are going to win 50 games.
Mm,
And the low number for me is 48. I think they're winning at least 48. So
right.
whatever they get over that is gravy to me. 48 is my low number that I think the Knicks will win, because if we're going to play a full 82 game season, I don't see the Knicks. Like, I can see them winning 50 and going 50 and 32, for example, being 18 games over 500. I can't see them losing more than 32 games. That team, to me, I don't see it. So,
That would be a losing season for us, right? At that point, that would be
right,
like we
like,
went
yeah, I don't see it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That
So,
would just mean that every other team got way better than they were the year before. You know what I mean?
right.
For something like that to take
I
place.
mean, for something like that to happen, you need a team. You need maybe two teams to really upset the balance, right? Because you already know
Right.
Philadelphia and certain guy Milwaukee, those teams are going to be good. Even though
Right.
we know the 76ers might have some turmoil, maybe they're not great, but they're going to be good. They got enough
It
over there
would
to
be
be
a
good.
team like it would be like
Charlotte, maybe.
Charlotte coming out of nowhere, you know what I mean, and really
Right.
become a prime number, and the Pacers, right?
Or
Turning the
even the
table. No,
Bulls being
Chicago.
better
Yeah,
than we think.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it
Right.
would have
And
to be
that's
two of those teams would have to shake stuff up, and that would really mess things up for the Knicks. But
right.
it is what it is. I do think that they should definitely be around a 48 to 50 win team. May 4th in the chat said we did well enough to improve on our record, but I don't think we fixed anything for a 7 game series.
Hmm.
Interesting. Uh, you
Here's a
know,
question. Here's a question to May 4th though. Would your mind have changed if Mitchell played in the playoffs? Because that was sort of the unknown, right? Mitchell Robinson not playing in the playoffs. We didn't know. We really had nothing to go up against the Atlanta Hawks shift on their defense. And I know Prophet talked about playing small, but we didn't really have the kind of depth that we needed to have to go against the Hawks.
so yeah, I mean that's the thing. That's a good. It's an interesting thing, and I wonder how many Knicks fans agree with that sentiment. Like, do they think we
Mhm.
have enough to make us get out of the first round in the playoffs? Um,
Right.
because I think that we can. I think we can win a first round matchup. I don't know
We
necessarily if we
should.
can get further than that yet, but that's because we got to see how this team plays. Like, you won't really know
Right.
what you got until the team gets out there and starts playing some basketball. We could see, oh wow, they're really strong in this, and that can translate. Right now, we
Right.
can't. It's hard to sell.
It's true.
So yeah, I
We
mean,
won't know
but I
until
mean,
the
listen,
team shapes out. You know.
yeah, I don't think it's that's a wrong assumption though, in the fact that we don't know if they've done enough to really get past, a 7 game series. So we got that'll be that'll be something that we'll leave up for a discussion at another time. We're gonna have to see how this team plays first before we can say that they look like they can beat any team in a first round series. But I think they can.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that way anyway because I feel like the biggest issue last year was, for whatever reason, it didn't become a team anymore. It was a Julius Randle team. Atlanta took away Julius Randle, and that was it. There was no more Knicks. So,
Well,
and
it all started
that's
with the perimeter shooting. There was no one knocking them
right,
down.
correct.
If, if Bullock said isn't locking in and Barrett isn't hitting shots, what makes you think, that anything is
All
going to
right, all
happen
right.
when it comes to like Mitchell, not Mitchell, with Randall being able to kind of, take over. He doesn't have the spacing anymore,
Hmm.
so I don't know.
Well, I
See,
mean,
May
uh,
4th doesn't believe in Mitch. Okay. I
yeah.
guess we'll
I
see.
mean, I understand it. Look, it's you're not wrong to feel that way because even though we think that Mitch is going to have a really big impact on this team this year, Mitch has got to
Mm,
stay healthy.
That's number
Without
one,
him
right?
being healthy, we won't be able to see what he can do. But if he stays
Right.
healthy, right, then you
Mhm.
can see like what he's worked on, how his new defensive strategy is changing. I mean, the guy said personally that he wants to win, defensive player of the year and possibly
Yeah.
be at least on the first all defensive team. So if you're going to say
Hmm.
stuff like that and put it out there, that you
You got to
better
bring it.
be doing something. You got to exactly. You better be doing
Got to
something to
bring it.
show that that's the case. The other thing
Hmm.
is we know Mitch for being very athletic and very quick on his feet, and he was getting to a situation where he was jumping and trying to block everything in front of him. So he was blocking 3 point
He got
shots,
he
all
got
types of
better
stuff,
at
right?
that though last year.
Right, exactly. He was getting in foul trouble a lot by doing that stuff, and then last year he worked on it and improved. I
Yeah.
think that he's going to improve on this naturally because he has no choice. And the reason why I'm saying that is because he's gained another 30 pounds. And going up to 282 pounds, it puts some more on your body and it makes you. I mean, I'm sure he can still jump, but I just think he might be a little bit slower than he was. Yet,
Mm.
I think he won't have to jump as much because now he can make up for some of that athleticism. He doesn't have to use it because he has the size to stay there. So when he's dealing with some of those bigs that used to body him before, maybe now he can stand his ground. So I think
Hmm.
this may benefit him on the defensive end. He won't have to take as many chances either.
Yeah, it's always good for a young player, to build on their body type. You know what I mean? Especially when you're a lanky, 7 foot player. It's always good to build some
Hmm.
muscle and gain some weight. You don't want to get pushed around at that size. And you also want to build muscle mass around, you know, your ligaments and your bones and stuff, the things that break. You know what I mean? So that
Right.
you're more durable at the end of the day. So I think he's doing everything he could do while he was away, and kind of healing from his injuries in order to come back a better, stronger player physically. Now, can he handle the mental aspect of the game? Can he stick with it? Because I think that's always been my thing. It's like, can he mature faster in New
Hmm.
York? Because he came in, he was fairly immature as a young player, and you know
Right.
his life experiences, right? They give you that maturity. So let's see how he comes to this season, knowing that he has worked through a few injuries that all happened that plagued them last year, back to back. This was sort of how he's matured from those injuries, and able to like strengthen his mind and come back that better of a player. I think there's a lot to say for someone whose work ethic, who's willing to push through those injuries, and want to be better and want to be a part of that first unit. I think that speaks volumes to his maturity. Let's see if he can put it together. You know.
Yeah.
And May,
No,
if he
I
does,
think
if he doesn't, then May 4th is right, you know. And there's nothing to be said other than we have to move on from him at some point, right? Like
yeah,
he
yeah,
it's either what is this, his second season? It's the third season. So he's with Barrett. So
third
this is
season.
his third season.
Yeah,
So right now it's
third season.
about, put it all together, or we may have to move on without you. You know what I mean? Or find a trade for him. Um, because there's
Yeah,
always going to be a need for a 7-footer. He'll get another gig somewhere. But hopefully he sticks around with the Knicks and he becomes a better defender, a better rim runner. I think he will be, but let's see.
yeah, and that's what I would probably say to May 4th. Most importantly, this is a money year for Mitch, so I expect to see the best Mitch we've ever seen. Yeah,
Right.
so we'll see what
It's
happens,
true.
but that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Because when you got the money on the line, you go all out. That's always been the case for these athletes. And if that is not the case, then obviously we'll have Nerlens Noel doing his thing, and looks like we drafted what might be Mitch's replacement. So with Jericho Sims, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I, well, like I said, I'm just really excited for what's coming, and I hope that the Knicks just don't disappoint us, and at least give us what it looks like we should receive from the product. We're not asking
Hmm.
for more than what it looks like they can do, just what they did last year, but a little better because you got a little better talent. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah,
Baby
I'm
steps.
expecting an exciting year, man. I really do think. I mean, we walked through it a little bit. I see us winning. Uh, I think we talked about the first, 10, 11 games,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think I had us
Mm-hmm.
winning like 9 of those games and losing 3. So I'm looking forward to this season. I think we can play amongst a lot of the elite teams. Will we win? It all depends on where we're at the end of the game. If we're keeping it close, we have an opportunity to win. We got guys on our teams who can hit big shots at the end of games, so that's always a plus, to have on your side. But I think we could play with any team out there. I think we're built efficiently. I think the front office has done a good job thinking about where they needed to get better at, and all the way down the line, our bench is a lot stronger than it was a year before, 2 years before, 3 years before, where we had just journeymen playing in games, right? We had D League players coming in and kind of, taking up roster spots of, where teams had an opportunity to have like stars on the squad. We had none. You know what I mean? We had no
Right.
direction. So I don't know. I think we're in a better place, man. I think it's a transition that's happened for the best.
Yeah. Well, and thank you, May 4th. You are correct. Took a look, and he is correct. No, Mitchell Robinson is not tied to RJ. Mitch was
4 years.
part of the Nilakina Knox situation.
Oh,
So he
interesting.
was our second round steal, our second round talent.
Hmm. Oh, so
Yeah.
Frank was 8, and then Knox was what?
Um, um, Wait,
So
hold
this
on.
no, it couldn't have been because
No, no, because
Frank came earlier then.
yeah.
So he
So
was with
Frank
Knox.
has four. So Frank had 4 seasons under his belt. That's what
Yeah,
it is. He had 4 under his belt. Right.
right.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So he came
Mm-hmm.
in with Knox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
those are both Mills guys right there.
Shout out to Cornelius Thomas in the chat. What's up, bro? See you.
Oh, yes, sir.
Um, well, this episode is a little bit on the shorter side. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the French Prince of Bel Air, Frenchie, a little bit about our Knicks. I'm excited for what's to come, and a little bit about the RJ comparisons, because I think that that's type of stuff that is needs to be out there. And I thought it was a really good article that was on Fansided that the uh, Knicks put up there, and I think that it's just another example of how RJ is becoming a polarizing figure. He's on
Hmm.
everybody's tongue these days. So uh, whatever that means, I hope that translates to something good for him.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Let's see if he. I don't know if he's gonna. We're gonna see like the physical leap. You know what I mean? I think right now we're gonna see him become a better shooter. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? And then transition into a playmaker at some point within
Yeah,
the season. He's gonna
yeah,
find his niche, this season. And again, I think Fournier talked about it during his press conference with the team. He was like, "Got to learn where each of us like to receive, and like catch and shoot. We have to learn each other's sort of momentum in the game. Like we need to know where people like their shots from, and that's once you start to build that repertoire with your teammates, then it becomes a lot easier of a game. And so I think that first week is going to show a lot. Practice is going to, I'm sure, be intense because
right.
you got two veterans going at each other. You got Walker and Rose, and whichever team they are in, whichever side they're in, they're going to want to win. They're those guys. They're those kind of gym rats that they don't even in practice. They want to get the win, and I see that in Randall as well. So it's going to be interesting to see as the matchups happen and during during their practice sessions, and then looking forward to what we see that first week. And it's going to be a doozy because we go right into games, right? So
Hmm.
it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, no, it should definitely be exciting. I think that this is going to be a year. You thought last year was interesting for how many Nick fans started to show up. This year coming up, you're gonna watch all these fair weather bandwagon Nick fans start to pop up out of the woodwork. You're gonna see it. It's gonna be like watching. Wait, are you guys Nick fans or Brooklyn Net fans? Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be one of those.
Hmm.
Um,
It's interesting.
uh, well, let's take. Let's see. We got one more question in the chat before we get up out of here. How do you feel about the Sports Illustrated top 100 players? Some folks feel like RJ was snubbed from 100 to 51. Hmm,
I would have to see
it's
who
interesting.
those top 50.
Yeah, like I mean, and then the other thing is, I wouldn't be surprised if I would have to see the full list to see what's going on there, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people are on there for previous, work,
Right, what they've
like
done, right?
like who's a good example? The
Gobert,
guy who was on.
Rudy Gobert,
Well,
right?
I mean, yeah, but like Gobert still does what he does, and he's been pretty much healthy. I'm thinking somebody like the guy who was with the Pacers, shooting guard that went to Houston. He was
Oladipo.
gonna Oladipo. Oladipo seems like somebody that'd be on this list for no reason. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
because obviously he's put up good numbers in the past, so he's got historical value to him. But what have you done for me lately? Like, is there a lot of those type of guys on this list? I don't know. I'd have to see that.
And you could name at least a top 20, right? Off the bat. So, I mean, that
I
ain't too
mean,
far fetched, right? You're talking about 51. It's RJ Barrett. Like I don't know.
I'm not surprised because I feel like RJ is still he
He's
hasn't.
learning.
One thing that's interesting about RJ and probably Julius too, been taking command of the New York stage yet, really. Like they're starting to get their name out there a little bit more. They're doing a couple more things. I think Julius has a couple billboards and posters. His son's got a little billboard or something. So he's starting to grow and blossom. But if you think about it, like remember like New York media and how we're used to guys like Derek Jeter and Jose Reyes and David Wright and Judge. They're doing Dunkin' Donuts commercials and all. You know what I mean? Like they're not doing all of the media darling stuff yet. When that stuff starts to happen, then guys like RJ, if he's one of them, you'll see his name being mentioned in a lot of different things because now he's going to be on people's minds. He's going to become a focus. But I don't think he's there yet. I think this year might get him there, because he's still not even on one of the top young players list. He got snubbed on the top. Could you imagine that? A guy who averaged each year has gotten better, who's shooting 40% from three, who averaged like 17 points per game, and he's not on one of the top young players list? That doesn't make any sense to me. Now that's a snub.
Yeah, that's more of a snub than the Sports Illustrated 100 players.
Yeah. I think he'll get his day one day, but not yet.
Yeah, I don't know. We have to see something.
Well, yeah, give him time. I think this is the year. Like I said, and you're right. You make a good point when you say you don't expect RJ to take such a huge leap. I think he averaged around 17 point something points per game. I think this year, as I said, I think he'll be more maybe around 19, high 18 to 19. And that'll be kind of what it is. So we'll see. But that's an improvement, but more efficient. So
Yeah, that's the
that's
key.
great. If that's the
It's
case.
about his
That's the key.
efficiency. That's the one. That's the one area that you want to see some progression. His efficiency from
Right.
the 3-point range, his efficiency from the free throw line, because that's what I'm expecting him to do: go downhill and get down to get in the lane, try to score some buckets, some quick transition buckets, hit your open jump shots when you have the ability and the shot is there for you. So we'll see if his efficiency gets better, and I think we're in good shape because that's
Yeah.
the outlier for our squad. That's the person. I think Cornelius talked about this. Prophet talked about this. That's who they're gonna leave open. At least I think a few people talked about that. Shout outs to Tony Crow. I think maybe I talked about it with him during his podcast. Knicks. What is it? Knicks and Bruises. Uh, you know, um, so I think he was the one who brought that up actually about RJ being that outlier and being the person who is going to have to, you know, be the person who's going to be left wide open, and they're not doubling off of, you know, Julius or Kemba or Fournier. So it sort of leaves
Right.
Barrett as that guy. So
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, and yeah. May 4th says if RJ shot 84% from the line, he would be well over 20 a game. Yeah. Now listen,
yeah,
that's going to be the key. We talked about that in last
big.
week's podcast. RJ needs to get to the free throw line.
Hmm.
He can command enough attention. He's strong enough to definitely get to the rack and finish through contact. So he definitely needs to do more of that this year. But obviously he needs to learn how to be a competent finisher. Don't just run into the lane like a bull in a china shop. Like you got
It's
to
a
have
traffic.
something. Something's got to happen, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll definitely be something he should be able to improve on. Because as I said, I liken his game. Should I say part of his game to James Harden? I think he can do
Okay.
some of that stuff, and I think that's definitely where we should go this year. So hopefully that turns out to be what it is. Well, anyway, I want to thank you guys for all tuning in. Shout out to Jose for holding us down on the ones and twos, and also
Yes, sir.
Jose for putting that question in the chat. Appreciate you, brother. Um, as always, it's been a pleasure. We love talking about these Knicks, and we look forward to seeing you guys next week. And you may start to see us a little bit more. Try to be a little bit more active and give you guys a little bit more Knick content going forward. But stay tuned, and you can find us on Twitter at Still Knick Fans. or on Instagram at Still Knick Fans. If you have anything you would like to see on the future show, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We take all the inquiries and all the suggestions. So thanks for tuning in
That's
once
right.
again. John, you got any parting words, brother?
You already know. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, tune in, and you know what your slogan is. What's the slogan? Tell a friend.
Tell a friend to tell a friend who tells a friend.
That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you, man. Take care. We'll see you next time.
All right, peace.
It's a litmus test just to see who's best. Roll the dice, break the pipe, and let's see who's next. Ron and Jon on the mic, talking New York Knicks. We be rooting and recruiting for the boot camp click. Take a step back, take a minute.